All right, folks, this is Dennis Guzik again with another of the Ultimate podcasts, or as some refer to it, the ramblings of the old devil dog.
I think today's podcast has really useful takeaways. So let's get going here. Recently, I learned of the
Passing of a true leader, Marine Corps Colonel Ed Lesnowicz, United States Marine Corps retired. I was very fortunate to have served under Colonel Lesnowicz, so today I'm going to tell you about him and one of the several leadership lessons he taught me. I was a provisional rifle company commander in Mogadishu, Somalia. The Marines were sent there because the fighting between two factions or Somali tribes, one following Ali Mahdi and the other Muhammad Adid. The result was almost total destruction of the country, and especially the capital, Mogadishu. We were sent there, the Marines were sent there to control the fighting and to help alleviate the starvation. But each faction at times saw us as the enemy would attack us. The Marines were always ready to respond. One night I was in my command post, which was just a bombed out shell of a building on the former U.S. Embassy compound, when one of my platoons was attacked. The platoon commander let me know that he had it under control. So my job became one of preparing reinforcements in case that was needed and informing my three bosses. They were my battalion commander, the commander of the Marine Forces Somalia, and the Joint Force commander. These guys always wanted to know what was going on, and I was constantly getting requests for information from these bosses. And that was because they were also located, or at least the Marine Forces and the Joint Task Force, on the former embassy grounds. In the middle of this firefight, who should walk into my CP, my command post, but my battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Ed Lesnowicz. Now, Lesnowicz was no ordinary Marine commander. He started his career as an enlisted Marine, seeing significant combat at Khe Sanh in Vietnam
during some of the fiercest
fighting there. My radios were blaring out information and requests for information, and I was trying to command the company. Now, Colonel Lesnowicz could easily have intervened and tried to help me, and with all his combat experience, it must have been difficult for him not to have done that. But he didn't. He took off his helmet, opened his flak jacket, and sat down. At some point, there was a break, and I looked over at him. He nodded and said, "You got this." So as a leader, just because you're in charge doesn't mean you need to run everything. Sometimes you need to let your subordinates do their job, and you need to prepare them. You need to give them resources. But most of the time, you should let them do their job while you observe, supervise, and inspect. Are there exceptions to this rule? Sure, there's exceptions to all the rules. A couple things come to mind, right? If it looks like it's going to result in a sure failure, you need to intervene and get things back on course, and then back off and let them do it. The next three are a little different. You need to intervene if the approach is illegal, unsafe, or immoral. In these cases, you need to stop them and either get them back on track, or if you think they're intentionally doing something illegal, unsafe, or immoral, consider replacing them. But we'll talk more about that in the future. Years later, when Colonel Lesnowicz and I spoke of this, he said that was the night I led and he followed. He was one of the greatest leaders I had a chance to work for during my Marine Corps career. So, what are today's takeaways? Two of them. One, if you're the boss, just because you are the boss doesn't mean you have to be in charge of everything. Hire good people, train them, give them the resources they need, then let them do their job. It can be hard sometimes not to jump in.
And I think that you need to take a look. As long as
They're not going to fail, it isn't illegal, immoral, unsafe, let them be in charge. If you're the follower and your boss interjects when you think it is not needed, speak up. Politely and professionally say, "Hey boss, I got this." Most good bosses will get the message, and unless you're headed in a really wrong direction, in which case they'll correct you, they'll let you run things. So that's it. Thanks for listening to the old war story. I hope you enjoyed listening to the podcast and maybe even learned something. If so, please subscribe, tell your friends, and look for another podcast next week. Semper Fi.